Hey folks, how's everyone doing? So we're on another virtual hike, and today we are in Nevada County in the Sierras, and we are checking out this beautiful wildflower meadow. This is known as Round Valley. It is below, that's Basin Peak over there, and then over there we got Castle Peak, and I have no idea what that peak is in the middle, but yeah, we're headed up the basin. But saw all of these wildflowers over here and thought it would be a good place to start filming. So I'm going to talk a bit about the plants as I kind of head back to the trail. Number one is this lupin. We have a beautiful clustered lupin. This is Lupinus Lepidus. It grows with these basal leaves. They're not, you can see there's pretty much no leaves as it climbs the stem. There's one, but you know, very few, mostly basal leaves, and then these very densely packed lupin flowers there, which is why they call it clustered lupin. And so there's many different varieties of Lupinus lepidus, but I don't know which one. Have to take it back to a microscope if I wanted to figure that out. We certainly have, this looks like it's possibly, and don't quote me on this, because these kind of like daisy looking flowers are really hard to ID, and there's a lot of little details you have to be sure about, but I think this is Eurybia integrifolia, the thick stem aster, but again, don't quote me on that. Certainly that species, Eurybia, has purple flowers. It has these phyllaries that are kind of spiky there. It's kind of bright, so I don't know if the camera's focusing correctly, but hopefully you can make that out. And then over here we have, this is, let me look at this a little closer. This is a Geophytum. Another name for these are ground smoke. And so I'm not going to be able to show you on the camera, but behind each one of these little tiny white flowers, there are 4 reflexed sepals, meaning they're pointing away from the flower. And so that's how you can tell these apart from closely related plants in the genus Epilobium. Those are willow herbs. They are really closely related. They do look very much the same. Flowers look almost identical, especially these small ones. But if you look behind the flower and you check out those sepals, that's how you can tell those two apart. And so yeah, that right there with the seed heads, that I believe is a different kind. It's a different plant in the Asteraceae, not the Eurybia. But considering there's no flowers, probably not going to make a lot of headway with that one. So let's see what else we got over here. A different lupin. This one's much larger. Check that out. Much larger. Leaves are really wide, really large. This is Lupinous Polyphylus, and maybe the subspecies is Burkii. I think that's one of the more common ones around here. You know, it's called like big leaf lupin, I think, or meadow lupin, and that kind of makes sense because, man, look how many of those lupins are here, just filling this meadow. Certainly in areas where it's wetter. And all right, let's walk a little bit. What can we find? This this clump right here with its beautiful, you know, it's summer now, but I guess you can call that fall color for this area because, you know, it's starting to die back a little bit. I'm going to butcher the name of the genus, but I think it's like Coengia, something like that. Davisiae is the species name. This is Davis's knotweed. And so this is in the buckwheat family, and there are pretty much no flowers left on there, but yeah, they get these little axillary flowers. So axillary meaning like the flowers are born in the where the leaf meets the stem. That's called the leaf axil. So that's where the flowers are born, and you know, grows sometimes in these big clumps, and sometimes it's just like a few scattered branches there. What else do we got? I'm sure we're gonna find some cool stuff as we walk back towards the trail. Certainly we have a thicket of willows where it's wet, and willows are really hard to ID. They're very variable too, so I'm not going to attempt, but you know, you can tell it's a willow. Really, I mean, wherever there's water, you pretty much get willows around here. Let's see, there's a really interesting patch. We have Arithranthi Primuloides, or the primrose monkey flower. And so these ones, these are the leaves down here. So it's got this like basal rosetta leaves, and then it sends up a really long peduncle So a really long, thin stalk that the flower is borne on. And the fact that the flower stalk is so long compared to this tube right here, that's called the calyx, is what puts it in the genus Arithranthi, instead of the other monkey flower genus we have around here is Diplicus. And so look at that, you got yellow flowers, all of the lobes there are the same length, and a little bit of red marking in the throat there. So that's Arithranthi Primuloides. Pretty nice monkey flower, if I do say so myself. And this one right here, we have Angelica capitulata, I believe, but more commonly known as ranger buttons. It's a really, really distinctive Angelica. So it's got these little poof balls of flowers, and see, pretty typical Angelica, like swollen nodes here with that like sheath on the leaf, and these heavily divided leaves. Very common in the carrot family, which this one is a member of. And yeah, ranger buttons, pretty relatively common in wet areas at the higher elevations, but you won't find it down like below, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 feet. There's a pretty good patch of it over here. See, that's all ranger buttons over there. And I apologize if me holding the camera has given anybody any like motion sickness or anything like that, but just to have so many cool things to show you in this meadow here. See, check this out. What a scene that is. Got the ranger buttons, you got the willows, Lupinous Polyphylus, and then the red is Castellea miniata, or the large paintbrush. And so here, let's take a look at that paintbrush up close. Pretty neat, brilliant color, really nice mix of colors and forms and plant sizes in there. Really cool community. Oh, and there's even a little bit of yellow from the Senecio triangularis. And here's an arnica species. Don't know which arnica species, but making a big clump there. You can see it's one of the ones that has, in the key it says like 2 to 4 pairs of leaves on the stem, or more than that, basically. And so this is one of those 2 to 4 pairs of leaves. Pretty interesting plant. Certainly there's a lot of arnica diversity at the higher elevations. You know, you'll see like Arnica deobata or Arnica effulgens, and a bunch of other ones that are escaping me right now. Oh, there's a different, see, that's a different lupin species. Let's get a closer look at that. Oh, it looks like it's being galled up. Don't know which gall this is, little rosette gall. Pretty much on every branch tip. Looks like all of the roses or all of the willows are making roses, right? But see how these ones are really tomentose? That's that. So tomentosity, pretty sure I just made up that word. Or it's like it's a state of being really woolly, hairy, where all of the hairs are kind of like tangled in each other, and you know, they're not like parallel to each other. They're just kind of, it's like a big woolly mass. And so this one has woolly leaves on both sides, which makes it, you know, pretty distinct from this other willow that we were pointing out, which has a, you know, bright green leaf on the upper side and maybe a hairy underside. Maybe those hairs are just too small to make out with the naked eye, or perhaps it's just glaucus, which is like that blue-green waxy coloration there. But willows are really tricky. They're highly variable. The trick that I learned from one of our members, Shauna Martinez, is the first thing you want to do is try to figure out whether you have an arroyo willow or not, and just rule that out, because arroyo willows will occur from the highest elevations to the lowest elevations, and their form is highly, highly variable. So if you can just determine that you don't have an arroyo, you're basically half the way there towards understanding what you do have. And let's move on. So all of this grass right here, that's pretty gorgeous. That's Elamis elamoides, or squirrel tail grass. Really common pretty much everywhere in our area, native grass, and called squirrel tail because when it's in seed, or sorry, when it's in flower, it's got like this reddish tinge to it, and kind of all of the awns here are held together, but then as it goes to seed, it spirals out. See how all the awns start spiraling out? So it's pretty distinctive grass. Really interesting one. We have a Cebaldia, a checker bloom. There you go. This is Cebaldia glaucescens, or the waxy checker bloom. And also really common. You probably find it down at 2,000 feet or so, but it also comes up here. It gets pretty abundant at the higher elevations. A lot of variation in this one too. So waxy checker bloom. And really when you're doing Cebaldia, they're a little tricky, but you definitely want to look at your flowers. And you want to look at the cauline leaves, or the leaves running along the stem. But then you also want to look at the basal leaves, the ones down at the bottom, because they're a little bit different in form. The basal leaves are different shape than the cauline leaves, and that kind of variability is going to, the differences between the two kinds of leaves is going to help you a lot when you're working with a Cebaldia key. And let's see. Oh, we have Caliptridium undulatum, or the one-seeded pussyposs. We have two species of Caliptridium that grow around here. Caliptridium Monospermum, which is this one, has its flowers borne in the axils of the leaves. So here's a leaf, on the other side here's a leaf, and here's a flower stalk coming out of the middle of that. The other one we have is undulatum, Caliptridium undulatum. It's the Mount Hood pussyposs, and it has usually just one flower stalk instead of all of this many flower stalks. It can have more, but for the most part it has one, and it's called the terminal inflorescence, so it's coming out of the top of the plant rather than from in between the leaves. So those are the kinds of things you got to pay attention to if you want to know your Caliptridium species apart. And so yeah, we're in this like more dry, granitic, sandy area as opposed to the wet area we're in now, and you can see the plants are just totally different. So the substrate, the amount of water that the plants have available to them, it's really going to determine what species assemblages you have. Got some pines trying to get established over here. These are lodgepole pines, pretty easy to tell because of our elevation and the fact that they have 2 needles per fascicle, and a fascicle is just a bunch of needles. You know, some species, so pretty much the first thing you want to look at is how many needles per bundle. Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 5? Usually it's one of those numbers, and that'll help you get a long way. And then usually you need to look at the cones as well. But lodgepole, I think it's the only one with 2, at least at this elevation and in this area of the country, so makes it kind of easy to narrow down. It's got really nice bark too. See, check out all that lupin in that dry area, and there's Basin Peak. We're gonna be heading up there. So yeah, I'm walking around this kind of marshy area. I'm looking for a way that I can get back across, because I kind of, before I started filming, jumped over the river. Oh, here's something I could show you. Here's one of those epilobiums that I referred to earlier. So you can see, very tiny white flowers, just like the Geophytum, except this one, and you probably can't see that, just like with the Geophytum, but it does not have the reflex sepals. It has the sepals oppressed to the flower tube, meaning like held against. That's what oppressed means. So yeah, this is, an epilobium are really difficult to ID. I don't have a good grasp on them except for some really distinct species, so don't know which one, but certainly it's an epilobium. At least I can get its genus. And then this over here is a clover, a trifolium species, and it is already gone to seed, but I can pretty much tell by the habitat and the leaf shape that this is Trifolium longipez, or the long stalk clover. Really common on the borders of wet meadows. So that's the thing, you know, the more you get out in the woods, the more you explore, the more you see the same plants over and over again. These things kind of just fall into place over time. Ah, here we go. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with the plant chickweed, Well, this is a native chickweed. This is in the same genus. This is Stellaria Longipez. Another Longipez. You'll notice it's got opposite leaves, really long stalk right here. And then this is actually, oh, I'm going to get this wrong, but Stellaria, I'm pretty sure, anyway, have notched petals. So each time you're seeing what looks like two petals here, it's actually one petal that's notched really deeply. And so yeah, this is Stellaria Longipez, the one that grows in your garden, the weedy non-native one. That's Stellaria media. Pretty cool plant to see. In the this is another like meadow associated plant. You'll see them pretty often in these higher elevation meadows. All right, this looks like a good place to cross. Really nice little stream right here. This meadow is, you know, draining out downhill. Got another species. Here's a different epilobium. See, this one has really broad leaves. And again, don't know which one. It's got pink flowers instead of white flowers. A little bigger. You know, there's probably, 20, 30 epilobium species in our area. Here's something interesting, a grass. This is a Phleum, I think that's how you pronounce it, with a PH, Phleum alpinum. Another name for this one is Alpine Timothy. So, you know, we'll see this one and just kind of wave and say, hi, Tim. I don't know where that name comes from, but it's interesting. Alpine Timothy, it sounds like a trail name or something, like something you'd, you know, a nickname you'd give your friend who's hiking the PCT with you or something. But, yep, one of our native grasses. Alpine Phleum, higher elevations, pretty distinct one. Not that I could really vocalize what makes me think it's a Phleum, because I don't know my grasses too well, but you know, it's a Phleum just because of the way it is. Some more beautiful wildflowers. Let's give a sec to appreciate the beauty of these meadows. Truly something else. And of course, we have the ubiquitous Veratrum californicum, the California corn lily. No flowers in this field, but really distinctive plant. This might actually like take over. I think actually, if you look in the distance there, all that yellow on the edge is probably Veratrum, just a big old patch of it. And because there's so many flowers, there is a lot of insect activity here. So I've seen lots of butterflies and flies and grasshoppers, and just enjoying the bounty. All right, now here's a treat. Let's take a look at that scenery first of all. So you see all of those like dark stalks that are coming up? Well, that is this flower right here. This right here is Pedicularis atolens. This is the little elephant's head. And so this one, actually, you can see the flower almost looks like a little elephant with the ears and the trunk. And these ones are partial mycoheterotrophs. So they have a little bit of green. They make a little bit of their own chlorophyll, or sorry, they make a little bit of their own food from their chlorophyll, from photosynthesis. But they're also tapping into the roots of other nearby plants, probably this like herbaceous perennials like this aster here, but I'm not sure exactly which one. And yeah, and they steal a little bit of the sugars from those other plants too, so they're partially parasitic, but they're just truly gorgeous, gorgeous plants. And I think that's going to be all for our meadow here, but we will pick it up once we move into a different habitat. All right, we're a little further up on the ridge, and there's this really nice, it looks like volcanic substrate, and I think we're pretty solidly in an alpine area. I mean, we only have, maybe 100, 200 feet further up to go before we're at the total peak, but just some really nice views and some really nice plants. We have a Artemisia species, and you know, when they're in these kind of alpine areas, they get really low and domy, but you can see down in there, they're still very woody. And And I don't know which species this is. This could be Artemisia tridentata, maybe arbuscula. It's kind of hard to tell when they've been so battered by the elements here, and certainly they don't have flowers, which is one of the essential parts of the key there. But we have some really nice Eriogonum, some buckwheats, another difficult one to work with in key, but they're still really pretty. Got these, in age they develop these reddish tones in the flowers and make them really stand out. And you know, a lot of stuff is already toasty and dried up here, like this lupin, like that phlox there, like that crepus. Crepus leaves are really distinct, at least for most species. So yeah, if you see a leaf like that, it's most likely a crepus. Also a gossaris kind of looks a bit like that as well. And here is some Fluorocarbons Rotunda Folia. It's the round leaf snowberry, which is also kind of growing in a mounded form. You know, this area gets covered in snow, so that has to contend with the wind. It has to contend with really strong UV rays being this high up in elevation, and then of course the snow load. And so all of that stuff combined, you know, all that stuff combined leads to these plants growing really small. And there's a nice little Selene, one of the catch flies. And so I'm out here. This is our chapter education chair, Hannah Kang, and she's pointing something out to me. So we're gonna go see what she found. What do you got? Oh, we have a phyllon. It's like Corybosum or something. It's the flat-topped broom rape. So yeah, this is a plant in Orobanchaceae. It's the paintbrush family, so it's kind of closely related to paintbrushes. And yeah, check that out. It's a really beautiful flower. Very tiny, obviously. And you notice there's no green, so it's parasitizing something around here, likely either the Artemisia or maybe this this mule's ear here. But yeah, that's pretty neat. So check that out. Phyllon Corybosum, I think that's the correct name for that. But yeah, gorgeous little parasitic plant. Very tiny here, I'll show you. Here's my finger. Very tiny plant. Pretty amazing that Hannah was able to spot that. But very cool. Yeah, we're going to try to go to the top now. So we found a gorgeous sheep moth hanging on in the wind over here. Let's see if I can show its wing ornamentation without scaring him off too much. Just a beautiful striped abdomen. Really large too. So down on some of these like rocky fields, just before the summit of Basin Peak, we have some really interesting plants here. Let's see. What do I want to show you first? First, I guess I will show you this plant right here. It's not quite in flower. This is a polygonum species, excuse me. One of the knotweeds. This one is Polygonum shastense. It's the Shasta knotweed. And so it grows pretty much at these high elevation rocky spots and has really woody stems. And then look, more axillary flowers. That seems to be the theme of the day. Flowers born in the axil of the leaf and the stem. And then we have this beautiful member. See, that's the little flower right there. This is a member of the rose family. This is Cebaldia Procumbens. It's the creeping Cebaldia. It is found in a circumboreal fashion, which basically means it can be found at around the world at the higher elevations, including in the tundra, and you know, makes it as far south as our area, but only in these alpine areas that kind of mimic the you know, the high latitude areas. And yeah, one more spectacular plant that we can point out here is this gorgeous one. This is Primula suffrutescens. And look at these rosettes down here. This is the Sierra Primrose. Really, really gorgeous plant. Flowering all up here. You see those little red flowers. Pretty much sends up its flower stalks as soon as the snow melts off of these areas, and is just so gorgeous. Absolutely one of my favorites. Let's see, there's some pretty good flowering examples over here. Just a whole bunch of it, but look at that patch. So nice. So yeah, that's the Sierra Primrose, Primula suffrutescens. All right, we're so close to the top. In fact, it's just up there, but we wanted to stop to check out these amazing views. And you can see off in the distance over there, that's the Truckee Basin. Nice little flat area. This is what's the elevation here? It's over 9,000 feet, right?
Well, here I think we're like at 8,900.
8,900, okay, so almost 9,000 feet, and there's a lake down there at the bottom. But yeah, let's point out some of the plants that are over here. Well, this one is one of my favorites, and it's a treat to see. We have a beautiful Cactus. This is Cactus nevadensis, or nevadensis, one of those two. And you can see it's got discoid flowers, so it's just got the central flowers here, none of the little daisy-like ray flowers that come off the side. And it grows in these rocky areas in a really compact form. This differentiates it from another Cactus that we find around here quite often, Cactus douglasii, and that one gets quite tall, and the leaves are kind of much more lobed than this. But anyway, yeah, a really nice member of the sunflower family, Cactus nevadensis. And if we walk over here, and I'm going to be very careful, because as you can see, it's quite treacherous. We have another member of the aster family. This one creates these kind of this matting habit, really silvery tomentose leaves. This one's, I think it's Raillardella or Ryardella, and yeah, another discoid member of the aster family. And a lot of these tomentose hairs on here, they're basically protecting the plant from the harsh UV rays at these high elevations and these exposed areas where it likes to grow. And I think at least one more over here worth pointing out. We have a beautiful Folia, and right now it has lots of bees and hoverflies and ants on it. And so here, take a look at this Scorpioid inflorescence, because it kind of looks like a scorpion's tail right there, right? Pretty common in the family that Folia belongs to. It's Boraginaceae, the borage family. And then these clusters of basal leaves, which are really quite hairy and almost blue-green. A little bit of caudline leafing, but mostly basal. This, I believe, is Folia hestata, and they call this the timberline Folia. So it grows pretty much, you know, here where the trees are wrapping up and you're just getting pretty fully exposed. But yeah, I think it's time to head up to that summit, finally climb this monster. And so we've made it to the top of Basin Peak. So that's pretty much going to be it for our video today. So thanks for coming along as we climbed a mountain and explored the plants along the way. And you know, as always, follow us on Facebook, check out our Instagram, join our forum. Oh look, that's the meadow we were exploring at the beginning of the video. And yeah, follow along our Redbud activities into the future. We're you know, going to be bringing you some really great stuff in the coming weeks and months. You know, lots of virtual options for you while you are hunkered down at home or stuck hiking by yourself or in small groups. So anyway, my name is Shane Hanofee, and this has been our virtual hike to the top of Basin Peak. Thanks for watching.